Before we get started today, we'd like to take this moment to dedicate the show to a wonderful lighting designer and a very good friend, David Bradkey. David was my associate out of Chicago for many, many years. We've worked on many shows together. Not only was he a great, gifted designer, he was a wonderful human being. So our love and thoughts go to Anya and the entire Bradkey family. We will miss you, my friend.
Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning. This is Stan coming to you from Gainesville, Florida, and today we are discussing killer toasters, or my trusses upside down, dead-hung light pipes, and how many VL1000s are there? All on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Welcome, everyone, to episode 270, and you've got, again, the original Stan, Steve, and David with you this week.
Just like the Chipmunks.
With their original Chipmunks?
Yeah, you know, we have to speed us up to 78, and we're much funnier.
Yeah, I think there was a band involved in that, but I keep forgetting about it anyway. Anyway, so we're going to start today with letters to Light Talk Central. These emails are coming in, and you know, when you say letters, it's kind of old-fashioned.
I write letters. I like letters. I even have stationery and a fountain pen.
Technically, this is not a letter. This was actually an email. And from a Chester Cartwright from Dallas, Texas. Dallas. Hey, how you like that, Steve?
I know him well.
You know Chester, so he's gone straight to the source.
Yeah, I mean, I met him in the drunk tank one night.
Well, anyway, Chester writes, "Howdy. This is Chester Cartwright from the center of the USA, Dallas, Texas. I have lived here all my life, never left the state. Well, as a young man, I regularly ventured into Mexico, but that's another story not suited for your audience. I am proud to be an alumnus of Southern Methodist University, and I believe so is David, and Steve teaches there, so that's pretty exciting."
I'm not.
No, you're not. Yes, anyway. So, shall I continue? "I went there during the dark days when the NCAA forbade the cheerleaders from any hanky-panky with the football recruits. Dark days indeed, but I regress. I am writing because you continuously refer to Light Talk Central as being located in the swamps of Gainesville, Florida. I don't get it. David broadcasts from the West Coast. Stan, Ellen, and Zach broadcast from the East Coast, and Steve broadcasts from the real center and heart of our beloved nation, Dallas. So my question is, if Dallas is the center of our country, why is Light Talk Central located in Florida? Makes no sense to this cowboy. Like a bull riding a pig, breeding two stallions, or changing horses in the middle of the stream, it's all fakakta. Therefore, I urge you to move Light Talk Central away from DeSantis Trump land to the center of civilization, my fair city of Dallas. Hell, Verilight and high-end systems are located in Texas, and let's not forget Elon Musk. Once a liberal California tree hugger, Elon smoked a joint filled with Texas peyote, moved to Texas, and is now Ultra-MAGA in Ludicrous Mode. And if it's a cheap warehouse space you need for all those crappy, not ready for dishwasher coffee mugs and shot glasses, you could store them in my shed, free of charge. Plus, we have a stable of inbred Texan guests for your show, like Driscoll Otto, Jim Waits, Tom Littrell, and of course, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And maybe you can all convince Ellen to return LDI to its original location, the stockyards of Fort Worth, or as we Texans call it, almost Dallas. Who needs Sin City when you have the rodeo and Red Bull bingers? So please consider changing your location of Light Talk Central to a state that believes in the rights of every ranch owner and oil baron oligarch in America. Hell, you should do it for the comedy value alone. Keep up the mediocre work, Chester Cartwright, also known as the Gas Man.
Oh,
Wow.
boy. I got some things to say to Chester.
I bet because you are Light Talk Central in Gainesville.
Well, I can understand his point, but I do have a small correction. Chester, you say that Dallas is the central of the United States. In fact, I happen to know and have lived in the true geographical center of the United States. Would anybody like to guess where that is?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, I don't think Chester is concerned about the actual center. I think he's more concerned about where we live.
Well, I live in Gainesville, so there you go.
No. But obviously, we can't have Light Talk Central in some place where no one is manning the fort. We need somebody to, to gather the letters that come in every day. We have, hundreds of letters coming in.
It has been a flood here lately, I will admit
Yes,
that.
the shot glasses need a place to be stored. The coffee mugs need a place to be stored. So I think, and what he is saying is that it should be in Dallas because, our brother Steve is in Dallas. We can't have it in St. Bart, right? I mean, that's way east. Although it'd be a lot more fun, I think, if it was in St. Bart. And of course, everything is crazy here on the West Coast. So he has a point. I don't know. But then it's something nice about being the swamps.
Well, my feelings will be hurt.
Yeah, I know. So we'll keep it where it is. Sorry, Chester.
Well, technically, Chester he's close to being right. There has been a lively discussion here on the discussion of Luckenbach, Texas, Austin, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, and which of those cities is actually the center of the universe. Because we know Texas is the center of the universe. So I think Luckenbach, Dallas, or Austin, and I think it has to be Dallas is the center of the universe. If you want a trivial explanation, I'm looking at the NASA site, and NASA argues that you can make a good case that the center of the universe is Oklahoma, but I don't know about that. But it's certainly in contention.
All right. Well, we really went off the ranch in that one. So yeah, okay, Chester. Well, this is up for discussion. We'll come back with a decision later. So Steve has the first question of the day.
And this is Chuck in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And Chuck writes, does it matter which way you hang a triangle truss? Does it really have an up and down? Well, Chuck, I like the difficulty factor of the question there, because you can easily spot a box truss and know if it's hung upside down. Triangle truss, a little bit more difficult, but still there's some things to look for. So a triangle truss, you always have the apex up. If you're looking at like a tomcat truss, their folding truss, when you fold that triangle up, there'll be two pipes at the top and then two pipes on the bottom, left and right. So you know where the apex of the truss is and you know where the top of the truss is. Some triangle trusses actually have rigging points built into them, and you will see where those rigging points are, and again, that is the up. When in doubt, I would look at the truss and see where the horizontal rungs are. And the horizontal rungs on a triangle truss, they'll be slightly heavier gauge than the support bars on the side, because you can hang lights from those also. So there's 2 or 3 giveaways on what is up and what is down on a triangle truss. You do want to be kind of sure to hang it correctly, because it changes the load capacity of the truss quite a bit if it's hung upside down. You can go to, I was looking at 2 websites today. I was looking at Tomcat site and they have a discussion on a video on how to recognize if truss is upside down or right side up, both box and triangle. And also Tyler Truss has a video on how to spot an upside down triangle truss. But I do take your point. If you're not paying attention, you think, well, it's a triangle. All three sides are the same.
So my question is, Steve, is because you're the truss guy, obviously. I have very
not really. I mean, that's why I hire rigging companies and I stay out of their way.
right. Is there a safety issue? I mean, is it stronger if it's hung in a certain configuration?
All truss is stronger if it's hung correctly. If you look at a box truss, the truss, you have to ask the manufacturer. You have to be kind of on top of this with the manufacturer too, because there's two ways to build that box truss. Some build their support bars in an A position, so it looks like a little pyramid there, and that is the correct way to hang that truss. Some companies build their truss in a V configuration. The important thing is that you understand how the truss is built and how it's intended to be hung. But yes, it does. It does change the capacity, the weight load of the truss. And also, it's a big deal, clearly, if you have an accident and the truss is hung incorrectly. I mean, I guess you can argue all you want to about it doesn't matter, which is probably a lame argument, until there's an accident, and then it's
right.
you hung it upside down.
Hang this upside down.
Right. But a lot of times with moving lights, trussing is changing, so we're seeing these kind of touring trusses where the sides flip up and the lights are there, so that it's a no-brainer which way is up or down. His question about triangle truss, I mean, that one's a more difficult question because you could hang it a couple different ways if you didn't know what you were doing, and hang it upside down, which I suspect is why one company puts rigging points in their truss, so that it's clearly this is the up and that's the down.
These things are engineered, and I do work with rigging, but not so much with truss. But man, I would just, like Steve said, talk to the manufacturer. They've got engineers. Trust the engineers on that. But I did have a thought, as Steve mentioned, the moving light. So I'm having to do some custom hanging positions soon on a project to put moving lights up. And the moving lights, they come with these clamps that are a certain distance apart, right? They snap into the base of the fixture. And sometimes you need to have, I'm just wondering, I guess if you had the bottom of a triangle truss, you would just go across that, but you could also hang it the other way, where those clamps would be across the two bottom chords of the truss. So I wonder if there's any advantage to that, or if that makes a difference, because where those mega claws or whatever you use are fixed in those keyhole slots on the bottom of the fixtures. Does it make any sense to what I'm saying, Steve?
Well, I think where Chuck is heading with this question is not so much a permanent installation or a tour. I think Chuck is questioning these one-offs that he may be involved in, and he's wanting to walk onto the stage and go, yeah, the truss is hung correctly.
So Demi from Alberta writes, my mother always told me to keep the toaster unplugged whenever I was not using it. When I asked her why, she said that if we kept it plugged in, it could burn the house down. My mom is always right. Should I unplug all the stage lights before we leave the theater at night, then plug them in again the next day? All right, so this is the great toaster debate, and a lot of people believe this, that if you keep your toaster plugged in overnight, or almost any kitchen appliance, it will, in the middle of the night, get really pissed off at you and burn down your house.
I believe that appliances have a second life.
So they'll survive.
I think they wake up in the middle of the night and they do things just like those movies, like cartoons, with the Toy Story, where all the toys kind of wake up in the nighttime and have a party. I believe in that.
Okay, well, Demi, Stan believes that your mom is correct. What do you think, Steve? You think a toaster can burn down your house in the middle of the night?
I have to say, I looked this up. Denny like the pancake.
No, it's Demi.
Demi.
As a Demi Moore.
Demi Moore.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So I looked this up, And actually, your mom is right. The toaster is particularly possessed by Satan. And what I read was that a toaster has a life expectancy of 6 to 8 years. And over that life period of your toaster, and this is a problem with all toasters, not just cheap toasters, but just toasters in general. And it surprised me. When you put your toast in a toaster and you push the little arm down and the toast sinks into it, that toaster goes to 500 degrees almost instantly. And then when the toast is finished, it pops up and you take your toast out. That pop-up turns your toaster off. Guess what the first thing that wears out on a toaster is?
the switch.
The switch. The switch that turns it off. So all of a sudden you'll think your toaster is off, and in the middle of the night it'll go, yeah, sucker Jew. The other, and apparently, Stan's got a point. This is true with all kitchen appliances. There's like a kitchen appliance from hell site that you can go to. The secondary place it's a problem is the actual cable plugging it into the wall. Mm-hmm. And that, it's like anything else, right? There is electricity flowing down that line, and it can eventually get crispy. It's not built the way a Source 4 is built. I doubt a Source 4 gets to 500 degrees. So I think there's something to be said here. I also looked at my utility company, and they said the same thing.
Really? The utility company?
Unplug your toaster. Now,
unplug your toaster.
Or your appliances in general when they weren't in use. Well, one, it was safer, but two, is your toaster, and they specified this, your toaster actually is drawing current even when it's in the off position.
Oh. So Demi's mom is right.
Yeah, it's not so much that current that's being drawn is going to burn your house down, but your utility bill is going to slightly go up. And they had something stupid like, you could save, $15, $20 a year on your electric bill by just unplugging your toaster.
Well, that pays for the toaster. So
it does.
Just buy a new toaster.
I used to get a free toaster with your bank account. I have a serious answer to this question.
These are serious answers.
This is a serious answer.
Stan?
Yes, they are.
Steve obviously went to a lot of research.
He
She'll
did.
be talking smack about on
more
board.
than I did, but I want to go
He's
a little.
not making this up.
But I want to go a little bit deeper because Demi's also asking. She's making the analogy to the lights in the theater, and you guys are drilling down deep on the toaster, which I think all of our listeners will appreciate that, especially those of us who like toast. But,
we like toast.
Yeah, I mean that's like that what was his Sam Shepard play where all the toasters go up at the same time? Very difficult to pull off.
I just have to say before you go further, the electric company also had a toaster safety checklist, and my favorite one was do not butter your toast before you toast it.
I need to tell my wife that because she likes to butter her toast before she toasts. But
she butters her toast before she puts it in the toaster?
She does, but our toaster is not vertical. We have a horizontal.
Oh, it's horizontal
It's
toast.
horizontal.
Still. Okay.
But I want to make some serious answers to these very, very important questions. Let's work backwards, starting from Steve's point he just made about the electric bill. Every little LED indicator light on all these little devices we have, yes, it's eating power all night long. True, if it's plugged in. Now, light fixtures, let's say it's an incandescent light. If you have an incandescent light plugged in and it's turned off, it's not pulling any power necessarily, but it is on the circuit for the building. Okay, but what I do want to say is this, LED fixtures, this is important. When they are plugged in, even if you are not sending any DMX or control data to the light to turn the light on so you see light, the little indicator lights are still on and power is going in, even if the DMX is off, your console's off. So what that means is that the most vulnerable part of your LED fixture is the power supply or the driver. It's printed circuit boards and lots of electronic components, and that is getting power 24/7. So if the circuit to your LED fixture is on, even though you have turned off the board, it's a problem because you're going to burn that power supply up. And If you multiply that by 50 or 70 or 150 fixtures, you are sucking down a lot of juice when you add that up. So these days, we run our systems that we design on what we call smart breaker systems, so that when the DMX is off, 15 minutes later, the brain in that smart breaker panel says, hey, there's no data going to those lights. They probably went home or they're not using them. I will turn off all the breakers. And it does. And it turns off all those automatic breakers. And so no power is flowing to the power supply of the LED fixture. So this is a tangent on this question. And then I'll finish with this last point. Give me a second.
Are you buttering some toast?
Yes.
Horizontally or vertically?
Okay.
I also read that all toasters are capable of working in a horizontal position.
Really? So they
I would
come
be
out
much
sideways.
I'd be much more worried about laying my toaster on its side than leaving it plugged in.
My third point is on your home, since we're talking about kitchen appliances. One thing you might want to consider, and you can, if you want to protect your house from lightning, let me just say, the two most vulnerable lines in your house to pick up lightning and kill and destroy an appliance are your cable, coax cable, if you're getting coax, and your phone line, because they're not well grounded and they're running through your house. So lightning will find that path of least resistance easily. But all your other things that are plugged into outlets that are going back to your breaker panel, you can get what's called a full box arrestor. They're about $50. You put that little guy on one circuit breaker in your breaker panel, and should you get a lightning hit, which is what would cause a fire in your home more than anything else, right? Lightning strikes are what light up homes or get them on fire. That little arrestor will snap, I don't know what the specs are, really fast, and arrest any lightning from getting onto your system, because all the wire in your house, except for those two things I mentioned, comes back to that breaker panel. And that's a really good safety thing to do. And even if it was your toaster, in a lightning situation, nothing's going to get power. But yeah, sounds like a good idea. Unplug the toasters.
But not necessarily the lights in your theater.
No, I don't think an incandescent light, no. But I think
Right.
an LED...
So she has to go up there every night and physically unplug every single LED fixture?
No, good point, David. What we do at UF, for example, when we run a lot of movers in one of our black boxes and we have a power distribution, we turn off the mains. And we do that because we don't have a smart breaker system. We're still in dimmer land, but we're running LED fixtures and we're running discharge lamps. Those do get turned off every night. Yes, they do, because we will substantially decrease the life of the fixture by running power 24/7 into either an LED fixture or a discharge lamp fixture, which also has a power supply, or a ballast.
Same thing here. We run a distro on stage and shut our distro down at night to kill the movers.
Okay, so Demi, you got it. Make sure you have a distro. You have a switch that will shut down all the electricity going to your fixtures. And then in the morning, you can wake them up and hopefully make some toast at the same time.
With jelly.
I'm just really curious how your wife butters the toast first. Does she butter it vertically or horizontally?
No, she does what you would imagine. You just take the slice of bread out.
Yeah, okay.
She puts her butter, or more in her case, Benecol is her favorite because it's good for your health, right? And then in the toaster oven, there's a tray. And then, I want to give away Pam's secrets here. And then in the tray, she puts parchment paper, which doesn't burn, what you cook fish on. And then she puts that in. Now, and then she puts it in and she toasts it, and she loves the way the butter melts throughout the bread. It's really quite beautiful when she makes it.
Does she put it on both sides, butter, or
no?
just
I don't think so. But
it's
going to seep down, right? It's going to melt into it.
It's going to go through.
And it's cleaner. So imagine how much of a mess you make when you take the toast out and you start scratching that butter on that rough surface. It makes a mess. She's an excellent chef, my wife.
Well, I've seen the photos.
I know you
awesome.
have. That's right.
Yeah, it's very nice.
And sometimes we do it together. Max in Maryland writes, and he says, it seems every theater I work in has dead hung lighting pipes over the stage. Is there a cheap way to fix this? Chain motors, hand or electric winch? Well, I'm going to steal from David Letterman. I've got a 10-point plan here. Okay. So I'm just going to read off the 10 points really fast, and then I'll go back to each one quickly. Number 1, you need to know what your overhead structure is, most importantly. 2, hand winches. 3, electric winches. 4, line shafts. 5, counterweight. 6, automation. 7, trusses. 8, points, single points. 9, creative counters. And 10, number 10, hemp. But don't smoke it. Okay.
Well, you're missing 11. I have an 11 for
Go,
you.
baby, go.
Drone Focus Deluxe. We're still pushing it. It's still going to happen. We're pushing it. So
Okay.
there you go.
All right.
Who needs your pipes? So we
Who
have
needs your
Drone
pipe?
Focus
So
Deluxe.
cheap. Let me say this. I'm the wrong guy to answer this question, but I wanted to answer it. When it comes to rigging, I don't believe in cheap. That those are two words that should not be in the same sentence. Cheap and rigging. Okay, it's like
for lights, you can have cheap lights. but you
it's
can't have
like
cheap
it's not
lighting.
like jumbo shrimp, That's but you don't really want cheap anything over someone's head. So regardless of how inexpensive it might be, we can talk about that. But I'm not a fan. So you have to first analyze the structure and what it can hold. We do that a lot in our practice, but we also rely on people who know more than us to know. We might show what the loads are going to be, how it's distributed, and the points, and then we let an engineer tell us what we can do. Hand winches, yeah, you can buy them at Harbor Freight. I guess put it on the wall, run some cables, get a clue, as they say, and put some loft blocks up, and you could do that, and you can use hand winch. That's pretty inexpensive, and if done properly, would probably be safe. Are you going to put a pipe on it? Okay, you schedule 40 or schedule 80 pipe, depending upon what you're hanging. Electric winches, sure, a little more expensive. Line shafts, motor at one end, steel pipe with areas that can roll up the cable and lift your pipes up and down, typically used for fire curtains. Now, none of these things are something you want to do yourself that I'm laying out here. Counterweight rigging, sure, definitely want it to be professionally installed. Automation, definitely professionally installed. Trusses, sure, call Steve. Get some information from Steve. They could be ground supported if you don't have overhead structure to hold them up. You can build a truss structure that could be semi-permanent and do that properly. Single points, yeah, I want to point out this company that I recently had a visit from. They're wonderful. If you haven't seen their work, it's Creative Connors. And Creative Connors is up there in the Northeast, and they do all kinds of lifting machines that you can rent for shows or you can buy for permanent installs. Lots of choices, free software to run it. I think that's a more modern situation. Or you can always go back to the old standard. Hemp. Get you some sandbags, right? Get some loft blocks, mount them up on some structure that you find out are deemed safe. Run those lift lines over to a head block or some kind, right? Pull it down, attach some sandbags and counterbalance it, and you're back and you're sailing all over again in the old school. So that's sort of my quick take, but I don't think you should do anything cheap when it comes to that. Could be inexpensive, but do it right.
Yeah. I say gaffer's tape a Lone Star to like a drone, right? And that along with the battery, and there you go.
It's coming. Niles Thurkinson, he's got that stuff going on.
That's right.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by
Better Than Nothing Industries. My grandfather meant the world to me. He taught me how to tie a clove hitch, how to break in a baseball glove, and the value of a hard day's work. And I will never forget my grandfather's last words to me before he passed. Are you holding the ladder, boy? Workplace safety and ladders go hand in hand. That's why Better Than Nothing Industry introduces the latest in ladder technology, the ladder of success. How many times have you said, "Are you holding the ladder?" Well, you don't have to ask anymore. New for 2022, the ladder of success includes the patent-pending Get a Grip safety system. With the Get a Grip safety system, your helper is harnessed to the ladder. He can't go anywhere. If you and the ladder fall, you are taking that sumbitch with you. That's right. Both of his hands are strapped, bolted, and tethered to the ladder of success. Now your ground crew has some skin in the game. The Get a Grip safety system can be retrofitted to existing third-party ladders. No drilling is required. The ladder of success and the Get a Grip safety system are proudly made in America by Better Than Nothing Industries. It may not be perfect, but hey, it's better than nothing.
That's great. And now back to Light Talk.
Well, the sounds of those rabid monkeys tell us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about how do you know when your career is over?
You know, speaking of monkeys, Cheetah just died.
What?
Remember?
Today?
Cheetah died?
A couple days ago. Cheetah
Rivera?
was 80 years old.
No, the actual cheetah.
Yes.
From Tarzan cheetah.
Yeah, apparently there were 4 cheetahs, and this
Yes,
is the
there were
last
several.
one. And he passed.
Yeah.
Fell off a ladder.
Well, I think what you're hearing in the background is the ghost of Cheetah. So there you go. So, gentlemen, how do you know when your careers are over?
I think when you start looking out over the ocean and you watch the seagulls and the albatrosses in flight, and you're thinking about margaritas in Costa Rica. I mean, I think when you are no longer interested, when that burning passion is starting to the fire is going out, that is when you know it is time to hang up your crescent wrench. Because face it, I mean, what we're doing is we're using our head. It's not like we're using our body. We're not stagehands that require a lot of physical strength and stamina. We are sitting there at a computer with a latte in our hands going, bring up that channel to 5, please. So I think our interest wanes long before our body wanes. So that perhaps is when you know it's time.
I don't know. I will argue the fact that it's not with just sitting at a computer telling the programmer what to do. It takes a lot of effort to do shows, especially when you're out of town, when you're going out of town to do them. It takes a lot of physical effort to do that and a lot of mental effort. And it could get overwhelming to a lot of people. And I think that's what we saw happening at the beginning of the pandemic and throughout the pandemic when people were just saying, I don't need this anymore. It's too much. Not that it's too hard, but that it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to them. And to follow up on what Steve said, I agree with Steve. If you lost that passion, then that's it. No matter what, whether the directors are calling you or not. Now, I'll be really honest with you. There have been times in my career where I said, this is not worth it anymore. And then sometimes you have to say, is this worth it? And not every show is, I must say. This has always been the case. Someone once asked me a long time ago, early in my career, why do you keep doing this? I say, well, because even though like 9 out of 10 shows are pains in the asses, that 10th show is going to be so great and it's going to be such a great experience that I'm going to, I decide to keep doing it. Now, I am happy to say, and this is just actually a normal thing because I believe the longer you get in your career, the better directors you're working with. And with the better directors you're working with, the better chance the show is going to be really good. That 9 out of 10 has turned into like 1 out of 10. So, it's very rare that I have a bad experience on a show. But there are times you question, and I would just warn our listeners, especially the young listeners, don't get discouraged if you're on a bad show, okay, and you're just like ready to give it up. Don't be, because next week could be a great show. And it doesn't mean that you're always going to have bad shows or bad experiences just because this one was bad or you've done 4 in a row, which may happen. It happened to me. And again, that was really early in my career. So that's pretty much what I think about this. How about you, Stan?
I have a significantly nuanced response to this question. So let's face a couple things. Most of our listeners, and I include all of us in this, we are what would be categorized as strivers. We're strivers. We're not, and we're curious people. And we're not going to be so quick to let go of our careers because just who we are, right? So I just read a book on this subject because in 19 days, I will be
90.
on the other side. Let's just say I'll be over the hill. I'll be
Over the hill?
at the.
How old will you be? How old will you be?
I will be 56.
56? No, 65.
No, I'm doing what my mother taught me to do. My mother taught me to reverse the numbers to make myself younger. If it doesn't work, then I'm supposed to lie. So I'm going to be 56, and I'm telling the truth. I'll be 65 on the 18th, and so I'll be right at that pinnacle point where I will be able to see what's on the other side of the hill. And according to the people I've spoken to, it doesn't look so bad. So I've been reading books on this.
Are you talking about death?
No.
Death. Oh,
there's a whole. You got to go down the other side of the mountain, buddy. That doesn't happen.
Channeling Moses right now.
Okay.
That's right. I'm channeling Moses. That's right. So I'm going to share the book with the listeners because I'm sure there are people. Now, the book I read, there's a lot of stuff in there you'll already know. But sometimes it's good to have a reminder. And I told it to my doctor this morning, who's 51, and he goes, he deals with a lot of people like me right now, so he needs this kind of stuff for them. So let me just give one example. Darwin. Does anybody know, this is a rhetorical question, when Darwin completed The Origin of Species, he was in his mid-20s, okay? He was quite a striver, very motivated. And the ironic thing, he didn't produce much after that. After Origin of Species, he just was depressed, unhappy. He didn't do much because you start to decline. This is a scientific fact in your 30s is when your professional decline begins. You might still have a lot of successes, but your decline, if you're 35, it's already begun, both physically and psychologically. You're just fighting against it. Now, let's take another figure from history. Johann Sebastian Bach did not have the same response to his decline as Darwin. As he started to become deaf and was not doing so well, he decided he was going to write these fugues, which were basically instruction manuals for how to write Baroque music. And in his later years, he became the elder statesman of Baroque music. So here's the point. The point is, you got to figure out how you're going to take everything you've accumulated, your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, in the second half of life and put it to good use. Because either you're going to become bored and depressed and unhappy or not. It's a decision, and there's things that you can do. So right now, I started this, ironically, yesterday. I am beginning the purge, okay? I'm in my closet in my studio. I'm throwing away old drafting. I'm throwing away old project manuals. I'm throwing other show folders. Some of it is being scanned because I think it has educational value. Some of it is not. So I am, and I would sit down and read letters that were written about me or awards or whatever. Makes you feel good. Oh, should I keep this? Yeah, I'll scan that, put it away. But no one's ever really going to want to see this stuff or hear about it. So incrementally, I am now making that transition. And if you don't do it in a healthy way, it's not good for you, particularly for people like us who are strivers, motivated, and be careful not to allow your past define who you are. And I'm going to give you one last story, and then I'm going to shut up. At the beginning of the book, the writer is a striver who ran a think tank in Washington. You probably know the name if I mentioned it. But sitting on the plane, it's late at night, everybody's sleeping, all the lights are out. He hears this voice from the seat behind him, and the guy says, "What's the point? I'm useless. I might as well be dead." He hears this, and it haunts him. The plane comes in for approach. The lights come on. They're coming down for a landing. He can't help himself. He's got to turn around and see who this person is who was talking, obviously, to his spouse. And he sees who it is, and he goes, "Oh, my God." He's 80 years old. He is world famous. Everybody on the plane knows who this is. They get up. He's looking at him. He's walking with his spouse. They get to the front of the plane. The captain comes out of the cockpit, walks up to him, shakes his hand, says, "Thank you so much for everything you've done. The whole world is grateful to you." He never reveals in the book who this person is, but it's a true story. And the realization becomes that if you spend the second half of your life trying to be the person you were in the first half of your life, that's where you're going to end up. And that's where the book begins. And I won't say any more, but I will post the book for our listeners on our Facebook group next weekend.
That was very, very deep. But probably very true.
Well, you asked a very difficult question.
Well,
and it deserves a serious answer.
I know. Absolutely. I think all three of us gave serious answers, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. Well, Steve has the last question of the day.
This is Hannah in New York, and she writes, "My summer gig just sent me a list of equipment. Included are several Verilights, VL1000S, VL1000I. What is up with this? Why the different letters? Is one light better than the other?" Okay, well, they're different lights. So the VL1000 series, I think they make 5 now, and the latest is a LED version. But when they originally came out, the VL1000S means it has shutters on board. So these lights were economy lights. Certainly better than a Lico on a stick, but it was a low-budget economy light, and it didn't have to have a full feature set. So the S nomenclature is shutters. The I nomenclature means it has an iris. And then they also made one that was a 1000D, and the D stands for dimmer, so you don't have to use a dimmer when you're using that light to
an internal dimmer. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other is the VL1000A, which stands for arc. So that's what they're telling you. Some of your lights have a shutter, some of your lights have an iris, and you need to make a decision where you want the shutters and where you want the iris. It's as simple as that. And
some of them are incandescent, if I remember correctly, as well.
They're all incandescent except for the arc.
Correct.
Right.
It started out as an incandescent light. Then designers wanted more power, like me, because I was using them for very long throws in opera houses. And they came out with the arc version, and I loved the VL1000 arc version.
We have 2 of them at UF, one with shutters and one with iris.
Yeah, and I would always use shutters in my fixtures. That was, again, this is back in a time when shutters were not common.
Oh, no, it was unbelievable. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And actually, the VL1000, and Tom Littrell and Jim Waits, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was modeled and created after the Lico. So the shutters had to be part of it. And I would really be curious to find out how many different designs they went through to get these shutters to work. And nowadays, the shutters,
but it paved the ground for now what's ubiquitous.
And exactly. And now everyone expects there to be shutters in their lights. And I totally agree
and those
with
ones
that.
would not do a full wipe like the new ones
No, they
do.
wouldn't. They wouldn't. But they were better than anything else that was out there, which was not much. They're like the cyber lights are out there at the time, but they didn't have shutters.
No.
They still don't have shutters.
No.
So that's the interesting thing about it. I loved those VL1000 arc fixtures. So they pretty much were on most of my shows in the early 2000s, mid-2000s.
And they were quiet. They had the outboard ballast.
Yeah.
We have one that has a stop problem we can't quite get fixed on the gobo wheel. And we've had
Listen,
them
we still use VL1000 incandescents in Central City. I've got like 25 in my plot. And unfortunately, they're getting really long in the tooth. So we started to put in some GLP fixtures, which is nice. LED GLP LEDs.
And how many spares do you hold back?
Oh, on the 10. We have 10 spares.
That seems pretty healthy.
Yeah, well.
Well, I do one spare for every 6 lights.
Yeah, well, with VL1000s, these were also, they bought them originally from a rental company, so they already had hard lives, and they got a very good deal on them. But now, these lights do go down, and They don't have the money, unfortunately, to invest in a lot of new movers. So we're using those. And actually, for that space, which is a very small space, very small theater, the trims are all at like 20, 22 feet. And, it's just
you got a nice wide angle on them. You have 70 degrees, if I remember correctly. But if I remember the gobos, you can't get beyond 50 if you want any kind of edge.
50 degrees are kind of the limit.
Max.
And it's weird when it zooms out really all of a sudden, going from 50 to 70.
Right. But they move smoothly, don't they? Move nice.
Oh, they're great lights. They're they're good lights. And,
well, the nice thing is they blend, so you're not having to worry about color temperature.
Right, because they're incandescent fixtures. Right. Wonderful lights.
I think are they 1,000 or 1,200 watt? I don't remember.
They started as 1,000, but they went up to 1,200 several years after they were first introduced. That is a fact that I just, it's amazing what I remember and what I don't remember. But I do remember that. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they went up to 1,200 watts.
You're not declining, David. You're doing just fine.
I'm declining. That's right. Okay. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, Amazon Prime Music, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of our casserole of nonsense.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you decide to litigate, the law firm of Flecht, Fluck, Flair, and Glare and their paralegals, Snoot, will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Lone Star State.
And join us next week when we welcome Tony Award nominee Ji-Yoon Chang to Light Talk.
Light Talkers is broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So, Mr. Bradkey, I'll be toasting you tonight at PJ's. And we'll see you all next week. Same time, same station. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye, everyone. Peace.
Light Talk.